everyone. Welcome to the daily newspaper analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So today is 14th November, and rather it is the Children's Day. So I wish you all a very happy Children's Day for the child that we all have inside ourselves. On this note, let's start the discussion. Today we have an editorial that we have taken from the Indian Express that talks about the price of freedom, basically about the letting out or the acquittal now, as we can say, or freeing of the convicts that were there in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. So we'll discuss it in further detail. Then we have news update and legal news for the day. So the article is named as the price of freedom. So the Supreme Court has decided to relieve the convicts who assassinated Rajiv Gandhi, including 4 Sri Lankan nationals based on the suggestions of the Tamil Nadu government. You can also have a look at the picture. We have Nalini, we have Pararivalan, then we have Murugan and Santhan in this matter. So the killers were responsible for the death of Rajiv Gandhi and 15 others due to the suicide bombing on 21st May 1991. We all are aware of this very, very famous suicide bombing, though it had taken place even before a lot of us were born, but still it was such a great incident that we all know about it. So the 2-judge bench of the Supreme Court cited their regrets in freeing the individuals who had been convicted on terror charges purely due to procedural recommendations. Now, as we know that this case, when it comes to the conviction and the criminal procedure system in the country, this case has been one wherein a lot of people were actually convicted due to the lack of evidence, due to the lack of reporting, and maybe at the times of just because of procedural recommendations. So in this light of a 2018 resolution, wherein most of the parties in Tamil Nadu agreed for remissions. However, the court ought to ensure that some of the power of the executive is insulated from undue influence of the executive, and that is why it definitely had taken time to give up this decision. So the overarching power of the executive in this regard has been highlighted in the case of freeing the convicts in the case of gang rape of Bilkis Bano. Now we know that this also has been a lot into news, and many of us have been also against the judgment wherein the rapists and the convicts in the Bilkis Bano case were also relieved. So the arbitrariness of the aforementioned decision was further fraught since the Supreme Court in itself had taken an exception to the normal investigative norms to ensure that the justice was given out or meted out to the perpetrators. It is sad to see that the courts have allowed the liberties of an individual to be dictated by the whims of political entities instead of the letter and spirit of the law. And what actually should stand in the end and ultimately should be the triumphant should be the spirit of law. But that definitely has not been happening. And we have been bowing a lot towards the executive and its whims and fancies as well. Now, abdicating the role of the judiciary to the political executive when it comes to crime and punishment shows poor judgment on the part of the judiciary. And definitely when we talk about judiciary being an independent organ of the system of the constitution, so in this regard judiciary should not be endorsed towards any particular side of the governance, which in this case definitely was not taken care of. So that is why we should make sure that judiciary is independent from any kind of outside influence if at all we want real justice to be delivered. Now let's see what do we have for news updates today. Firstly, Jeff Fenech awarded world title 31 years after controversial draw. So Australian boxing icon Jeff Fenech has been awarded the World Boxing Council's super featherweight belt 31 years after being denied the title in a controversial draw against Azuma Nelson. A panel of the WBC, that is the World Boxing Council, judges reassessed the June 28, 1991 fight, which was there at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas, which lasted 12 rounds and resulted in Nelson keeping his belt. That decision was widely criticized by boxing pundits, and Fenech later said he was never the same fighter after it. Now let's see what do we have for legal updates today. Firstly, lawyer who signs petitions with derogatory remarks is guilty of contempt of court, said the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court issued notice to the petitioner and the advocate on record on a plea which contained derogatory remarks and observations against a High Court judgment were highly contemptuous in nature. The bench held that even a lawyer who subscribes his signature to such remarks should be held responsible for contempt of court. This was held in the case of Mohan Chandra versus State of Karnataka. Secondly, High Court cannot exercise the power of remission itself, says the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court observed that while exercising the power of judicial review, a High Court cannot use the power of remission itself. The Supreme Court held that the High Court could only have directed the issue of remission to be examined by the concerned authorities or given a time frame within which the decision for the same had to be communicated, but the High Court cannot exercise the power itself. And this was held in the case of State of Haryana versus Daya. So this was all for today. We hope you liked the session. Thank you so much for staying tuned with LawSikho. If you wish to download the PDF of today's slides, you can join our Telegram channel. The link is there in the description box below, or you can also scan this QR code that you can see on your screens right now.